Welcome to another edition of the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. Now, here's dementia care expert Teepa and your host, Greg Phelps.
Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partners podcast, brought to you by Relias Online Learning. I'm your host, Greg Phelps,
along with Pax Teepa. And Teepa, I have to admit, kind of squeamish about our topic today. And that's because we're talking about sexuality, intimacy, and dementia care. Now, why is that? Is it a taboo subject in dementia care?
Well, it's a taboo subject in the U.S. I'm not sure how Canada is. I think given the English roots, I suspect y'all are sort of like, keep that in the bedroom, not in the front parlor.
Well, we're not much better, eh?
I don't think so. So, the thing about this particular group of us, the baby boomers, we said we were real liberal when it comes to relationships sometimes, but it turns out we still don't want to do it out there in public the same way. I mean, that's sort of like still like, ooh. So, social mores are still social mores. I don't show me yours and you show me I'll show you mine and you show me yours in public settings. I mean, PDA is actually an abbreviation, public displays of affection, no public displays of affection, or, do side hugs, or, we got all this stuff going on about where can you kiss, who can you kiss, how do you kiss, who do you hug? Oh, and Lord, with the advent of COVID, it's like, keep your distance, don't touch. So, there's this added element of safety, but it is interesting, isn't it, that hopefully you find pleasure in doing it in private, but what we do in private doesn't tend to be something we talk about in public or even in healthcare all that much, honestly.
This is a subject that I don't think I've ever heard discussed before in any way, shape, or form related to healthcare. Is it because we assume that mom and dad don't do it anymore, or they don't hook up with somebody else and do it, or
It's very interesting. Actually, if you ask younger people about the sex habits of older adults, the first thing they do is ooh. It's this ooh phenomenon. And then the next phenomenon is like, oh, I don't think so. Really? Really? Would they? Oh, it's bad enough to see mom in a bathing suit, or kind of stuff. So there's a lot of opinion stuff and a lot of, well, of course, I'm sure they do, but not, I'm like, they're affectionate, but, we don't expect there to be the same range of sexual interest or lack of interest that we see in younger populations. Yet it turns out older adults are a lot like younger adults. In many cases, we've got a range of interest and a range of behaviors and a range of sexuality issues and even gender identities. It turns out we're complicated, and knowing about other people's private stuff, whether it be physical body or interactions or relationships, it makes even healthcare providers, honestly, fairly uncomfortable, or they're afraid they'll offend their patients. They don't know quite how to bring it up. It's interesting how often that happens.
So if mom and dad are still living at home, there's sort of, that's one scenario. When people go into care, most often they don't go in as a couple. So does this create problems? And we know that some stages of dementia, there are boundaries that simply don't exist for some people.
Right.
So I can see that there's some need for discussion on that as well.
Yeah. Well, even without dementia, one of the phenomena is sexually transmitted diseases in residential facilities, because people have access to one another in a range that you wouldn't in a, free living community where you have to make more arrangements and do more things. We put people in closer proximity, and sure enough, the number of sexually transmitted diseases that people are sharing about goes up, and that's without dementia. Now, for most dementias, to be quite honest, there's actually an inhibition of sex drive rather than an excitation of sex drive. So I think the difference between intimacy and intimate touching and those kind of things compared to sex drive and actually intercourse and things along that nature, I think it's a lot less about intercourse, but it is a lot about finding somebody to have a relationship with, finding and touching and misinterpreting touching and enjoying touching and our bodies become a thing again to explore and to test out and to do things. But because I can't see someone else's perspective, it puts everybody in a sort of vulnerable place, because I like what I like and I want what I want, and I'm not as able to figure out, are you okay with it too? Are you enjoying it too? Do you want to stop now? Oh, I was just getting started, or I'm done now, and you're not. And so it becomes, he's hurting me. And so this inability to see other perspectives. I wish I were just talking about the people who are older and have dementia, but it's also family members and staff members and the media and faith community. I mean, everybody has an opinion.
In your experience, you've been to a lot of places and a lot of facilities. Do you think staff get any training whatsoever on this subject?
They don't even get training on understanding how, if I'm trying to help you with intimate care and I'm right in front of you and I'm touching you in places that classically we'd only touch each other if we were going to have an intimate relationship, I don't understand that I'm triggering your reaction to me, and that then labeling me as sexually inappropriate. Actually, you should be the one that gets identified as being inappropriate because you started it. You're trying to take my clothes off. You're trying to get up under my breasts. You're trying to touch me in my private area. I mean, that's because, as you say, you're giving me care, but I don't get all that. And so I think it's not covered in any meaningful way. It's also not covered, what would you do if you walked in on someone and they were being intimate with someone else? And maybe it was just kissing or lying in the bed. Recognizing somebody lying in the bed with somebody else isn't necessarily about sex. It could be about, oh, when I was little, our sisters slept together. It might not even be about, oh my gosh, is she a homosexual? Is she a lesbian? And it could simply be, I was looking for comfort. Look, there's my sister, and I get in the bed, and I'm not even. So I think, simple answer to your question, there's no training, to the best of my knowledge in general. Now, that's not to say that Ontario, a while back, did work on this, but usually it only comes up when there's an incident. It's not part of typical training, honestly, anywhere.
Now, I believe you were working on something on this subject, which I find fascinating, and I'm looking forward to sort of seeing the products.
Yeah, we are working on this, and we have done this before. I've done it in states where it's become an issue, and some places are like, well, we'll do women only, and it's like, okay, I wonder how that'll work for you, or we'll only do men, and it's like, okay, well, I'm still not, or we'll only take X, and it's like, humans are humans. So I think we better start figuring this out rather than assuming no touching, because that's the other huge issue that I see, is limiting how much people get touched. And it's like, all that does is create a craving for touch. Figuring out the balance of how we get this to happen. And when there is an issue that somebody's having because they do have a strong sex drive, what can we talk about and do about it, rather than labeling and then restricting and hospitalizing and then medicate? I mean, we've got to look at what we're doing that's supportive before we start becoming part of a law enforcement system.
Teepa, is there information available through your website, or is this something that maybe I should do a one-on-one with one of your consultants and try and get some, because it's so individual?
It's so individual. So, I mean, we do have some blogs and things. So if you're interested in just sort of even dabbling your toe in the water and going, oh, maybe this could be something else. Or just simply going, here's what I'm experiencing. So I'm really curious if you have any support. That could maybe be best done by a consultation rather than, trying to read up on your own. If you find that your brain is going, ugh, what's going on here?
Teepa, thank you very much.
That's great.
You've been listening to the Dementia Care Partners podcast, brought to you by Relias Online Learning. Relias has recently launched Teepa Snow for Dementia Education on Relias Academy for individual professionals. Search Teepa Snow at reliasacademy.com.
Hi, I'm Teepa Snow, and you just found our YouTube channel and watched one of our videos. I'm the owner and founder of Positive Approach to Care. Thanks for watching, and if you liked if you have a comment about, or you would, please share it with people you know. Oh, and if you haven't yet done it, consider subscribing. We'll let you know when the next new video comes out. And you might want to visit our website, www.teepasnow.com, where you'll find other resources as well. See you there.